Hey everybody, thanks for joining us for the very first episode of Craft Beer Republic. I'm very excited that our first episode with a new name is taking place at one of our all-time favorite spots to do some very important beer research. We're back at 14 Cannons Brewery in Westlake Village, California. Find them at 31125 Via Colinas, number 907. Look for the signs. We're being joined once again by the head brewer and all-around mad scientist around here, Nic Bortolin. Nic, thanks for hanging out today.
Thanks for coming and drinking beer with me.
You know what? If you're going to get me out of bed and get me somewhere at 11 in the morning on Saturday, it's going to be for beer. Our main reason here today is we're talking about the new collab. You guys did an awesome collab, which we'll get to in just a second. We're also going to do a little follow-up. I mean, it's been
4 years.
Was it 4 years since we talked? Like three and a half. Yeah, it was December. Like
4.
3.5 years. Batch 85. You guys want to go back, get the basics, find out about Nic's background, all that good stuff. So, like I said, we're here for the collab. You got together with one of our other favorites, Enegren. If you're in Ventura County or Southern California and you like lagers, everybody thinks about Enegren. They're doing everything lager, everything German. You got to hang out with Chris. You guys came up with a Pilsner, right?
An Italian Pilsner.
Pilsner. Get into the story. Who swiped right or left or whoever swiped, and how did it come about? And then let's taste it too.
Yeah, Chris and I have been talking about doing a collab for at least 3 years now. We're buddies. He actually helped build this brewery with me. He has a background in engineering, and so he helped me put together the brew house and all the electrical wiring and stuff like that I'm scared to do because I don't want to, electrocute myself.
Right.
Chris can come over and do it with his eyes closed. So he was a great help getting this place built and set up. And so ever since then, we've been talking about, we got to do a beer together. But I was predominantly IPA focused like when we started, and it just never made sense, and we never had time. Brewers rarely leave their own breweries.
No time.
Yeah, no time. I mean, there's always something to do. Like right now, I'm looking at tanks, and I got to dry hop a tank as soon as we're done with this. I just realized.
And it's your day off.
Right. So beer doesn't take a day off. It's, living things, what I like to tell people.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Italian Pilsners are so hot right now. I feel like everyone's doing one.
Well, they're hot because it's hot.
Yeah. True. And it's kind of a newer trend, I think, in craft beer right now, which is funny because for so long it wasn't really a style, and it still might not be a style. I don't think it has its own, it's not recognized by the BA or anything. There's no
GABF.
Yeah, no GABF category for, Italian Pilsner. But I think one of the reasons it's taken off is really what it comes down to is it's dry hopped. Mm-hmm. That's like what makes an Italian Pilsner an Italian Pilsner.
Are the Italians known for being hoppy? I mean, why? There's
one beer in Italy, Tipo Pils. If you ever come across Tipo Pils, buy it and enjoy it. It's the inspiration behind Firestone's Pivo, Hoppy Pilsner, and Tipo Pils is basically the first guy in Italy to, bastardize a beer by adding hops to it.
Hero.
Yeah, right. And so when Chris and I were coming up with this recipe, we were like, okay, how do we, do this subtly, not make it a West Coast hop bomb.
Right.
There's, a lot of great hoppy Pilsners out there in LA right now. But we didn't want to use American hops, and we wanted to be true to form with it still. And so I'm really happy with the end result.
Yeah, let's dig in. Let's have a little sample here. Yeah. And you can tell us what's in it.
So that malt base it's Italian malt, Pilsner malt. So it's kind of like a little sweeter, like honey, graham cracker almost, which is, atypical of a German Pilsner.
Sure.
You get more of the like cracker with a German Pilsner malt. Mm-hmm. But this, like I said, I get a lot of honeydew melon almost sweetness from the malt.
Yeah, it's sweet without that like corn sweet.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. My first time using this malt, Orecchia is I think how it's pronounced. My Italian's not awesome, but sweet, nice Pilsner malt and great base for the beer. And then I think Chris and we brewed the beer with some really traditional hops because we just wanted to let the malt shine through. And then what we actually did when it was done fermenting, when it had been lagering for a few weeks, we got like 6 or 7 different hop varieties and just went straight home brewer with this thing and put a couple hop pellets of each variety in a bunch of bottles and hand bottled a bunch of different bombers.
Beer science.
Yeah, to see what dry hop we wanted to use. And so that was fun. But yeah, super nerdy, homebrewy way to figure out what hops you're going to add to the beer. And the one we ended up really, really liking is Callista. So there's Callista hops in here.
It's not something you see a lot.
No.
It's not around here.
No, it's a German hop. Again, to be true to form, true to style for the Italian Pilsner. Noble hops are what are used, German hops. So we didn't want to just throw in some Citra or some Nelson or, any of those hot buzzword hops,
Right.
Which probably would have, been great too.
Right.
But we wanted to be, true to form with this. And so I think the end result was fantastic. It was a fun, nerdy way to figure out what we're going to do. And then, we're sitting in front of my lagering tank here.
Right.
And so dry hopping the Pilsner was also kind of, the process was fun to come up with for any beer nerds listening. What we ended up doing was we lagered in our conical for about a month. And then when you dry hop, you don't want the beer to sit on the hops for too long, just long enough to pick up, the aroma and the flavors from the hops. And if they sit on the hops for too long, you can get kind of grassy or vegetable-y. And so to avoid that, what we ended up doing was lagered in the conical. And then once the beer was done and we were really, really happy with it, it was clear, it was perfect. Then we transferred the beer into the lagering tank after I'd filled it up with the dry hops.
Oh.
So we transferred it on top of the hops.
Interesting.
Which was kind of a cool process.
Yeah.
Which definitely means this is not something that we could go into production mode with. It's kind of a pain to make. Definitely a one-off. But it was fun to come up with that new process. So we transferred on top of the hops and then left it in the lagering tank and just tasted it every day. And then after a couple of days when we were happy with the flavor pickup from the Callista hops, then we centrifuged it and canned it.
That's awesome. So, you and Chris are both huge nerds, really.
Yeah, you could say
when
that.
Yeah, when it comes to beer.
Not offended.
Yeah. How do two nerds like that get together and come up with a recipe? Are we battling over things, or was it like a beautiful mind with your whiteboard? And
no, he actually had to restrain me quite a bit, I'd say. And definitely when we were talking about the amount of hops used, people that are familiar with our beers, like my IPAs, they're Tyrannicide and Point Doom, and all the big IPAs we make have
very West Coasty,
absurd amounts of dry hops in them. Last year I did a collab with Institution, and that was maxed out our credit cards buying hops to dry hop that beer with.
Those are the kinds you just hope to break even on.
Yeah. I was doing it for me, not for you.
Yeah.
But so Chris did a really good job of restraining me and okay, we're making a European style lager. Nick, you can't go nuts with it. That was a good use of collabing.
Yeah.
And then talking malt too was fun with him. And then the big difference that's a lot of fun is we have different house yeasts. So Chris uses a very different lager yeast than what I use here. I feel like this is a good Enegren-esque beer. Obviously, we wrote the recipe together, we brewed it together, but we used the 14 Cannons house lager yeast.
Oh, cool. And if there's anybody that knows anything about restraint, obviously Chris is going to know about restraint when it comes to beers.
Right.
This is great. This is super crushable, perfect summer beer. Like you said, you get a little sweetness. It's not that overdone corn sweetness. It's like kind of that honey crackery. And the hop, you don't sit there and go, oh, I taste such and such hop. You just get a little hop bitterness at the end. It dries it up. It makes it clean. And a good amount of carbonation to dry it up a little bit more even.
For sure.
Keeps you wanting more, which is what you want. Describe to people what's the difference between a Pilsner and a lager.
Nothing.
Then why the name?
Right. A Pilsner is a type of lager. So there's two types of yeast in brewing. So lager yeast is bottom fermenting and ferments cold. Ale yeast is top fermenting and ferments a little warmer. Gives you fruitier esters. So yeah, a Pilsner is a lager.
Just with a fancier name.
But we get every day, people will come in and they'll ask for, I'll have your Pilsner, I'll have your lager. It's well, it's the same thing.
I blame that on big beer.
Yeah, for sure.
For confusing people. Very good. Well, like I said, we're going to catch up on a couple of things. We've got a couple other beers. It's a very lager-centric episode. We're going to talk about some lagers, which, as I was saying before we recorded, people, hey, what do you recommend in the area? And I'm like, what kind of beer you want? Oh, hoppy. Go to 14 Cannons. When they say lager, I don't think hey, go to 14 Cannons. But right now, 6 on the board?
Yeah, 6 lagers on tap.
Which is crazy and great for summer. So stop on by for some summer beers. But yeah, a lot of it's changed. Like I said earlier, if you haven't heard it, go back to Batch 85. We talk about Nic's background, how the brewery started. I think when we recorded, you guys were 4 months old, 3 months old.
Yeah, really new.
Yeah. Hadn't won any awards yet. Now you've won a bunch of awards, especially for the Marzen, which we'll get to. I got engaged since then and then married, and 14 Cannons was a part of our engagement. Yeah. Made her stop here on her little scavenger hunt. You got engaged since then. Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You guys got rid of the skee ball, which made me really sad, but at least the pizza that you replaced it with is really good. You got the wine club. You mentioned the 3-year collab with Institution, done some great collabs. Speaking of wine club, is there a beer club coming?
There actually might be.
Ooh.
I might have to let you know when we can tease that in the future, the not too distant future. But yeah, we are working on a beer club.
And for everyone out there who likes beer, maybe their significant other doesn't like beer, they like wine, come on out. They got a wine club. You guys don't make the wine, it's you bring it in, right?
Correct. We actually, our wine club is run, Club 14 is run by brother-sister combo. Charlie and Lauren are somms and excellent at wine. They're from the area forever, and they get wine that you can't buy anywhere, which is really cool. If there's ever a rare style from Paso, from Napa, from Italy, they get it, and it's literally wine you can't buy online or find. You have to be members, or you just have to be them to get. So that's it's a cool offering. I've learned a lot more about wine having them in here.
Oh, I bet.
I just used to think it was spoiled grapes because I'm a stubborn brewer. But no, it's doing really, really well. And being in Westlake too, people like having a wine club. So.
Oh yeah, I imagine. And then we mentioned the Marzen when we first talked. You hadn't won any awards. The Marzen's probably your most award-winning beer now, right?
Yeah, it's won 3 or 4 golds. Yeah,
and rightfully so. And on the first episode, we were just reminiscing before we started. We tried it, but it wasn't carbonated yet. It was fresh out of the fermenter.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure if we tried it on the show or after the show, but we tried it that day and it was like, here, give me a taste of this, blah, blah, blah. And it was great, but it was obviously not carbonated. So here we are a few years later with a carbonated medal-winning Marzen. This is my wife's favorite. This is what I made her pick up on the scavenger hunt for our engagement. I made her pick up a growler full of Marzen and then showed up with that, which was great. It settled the nerves a little bit.
Yeah, I'm happy that this beer is still on tap all these years later.
Yeah, it's everybody I know. I mean, our core group of friends, their favorite here is the Marzen. We always come and we get at least one Marzen while we're here. It's
awesome.
It's just it's always good. There's nothing ever wrong with a Marzen. It's not like, oh, it's too hot for a stout. Like no one's going to say about a Marzen.
Right. Yeah, it's refreshing. It's sweet. My first time ever having a true Marzen or Marzen was when I was at Oktoberfest in Germany, and I'd never had an amber lager like this. And I was like, what is this delicious
It's not a lager?
Yeah, what is this? And so since then, that was, over a decade ago, I've been trying to replicate, I've been, chasing that dragon, if you will, of trying to replicate that Marzen I had at Oktoberfest. And so I make this year round. Most breweries, a Marzen is an Oktoberfest,
right?
Classically, traditionally. But I make it year round because I think it's sweet and delicious.
Yeah, usually people make a whole Oktoberfest event around there.
Yeah,
Marzen.
If I was better at marketing, I'd probably do that. But I just want to drink it.
Well, that's why I find the more interviews we do, the more I find out brewers just want to drink what they want to drink, and at least half the board is going to be what they feel like drinking. Mm-hmm. So, and what goes into this?
The secret behind this beer, this recipe, I guess I'll give it away.
Don't say love, please. Don't say love.
Oh God. No, it's the base malt I use. Is I get it from Germany. It's a Barca variety, and that's a small little farm that grows the malt and highly kilned, and I don't put any Pilsner malt in it at all. So most Marzens or Oktoberfests are a little lighter than this. You and I are looking at the beer, and it's really deep amber in color.
I mean, it looks almost like a red ale.
Right. Yeah, it could be marketed as an amber or a red. Mm-hmm. And that's from the base malt that we use. So the secret behind that beer is just, I finally found the malt I was happy with importing.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's delicious. It's sweet a little bit. It's, a lot of times you get the Oktoberfest and it's like, ooh, way too sweet. This is just a little sweet. It's also a little dry. It just goes down so easy, low ABV, super crushable. That's why we get it every time we're here. It's a good beer to finish on. If you start off with it, I got a point doom first. It's well, I got to drive. I'm going to kick it off with or end it off with the Marzen. Helps out. All right, so going back to the beginning, when we first talked, the brewery was really focused on being a showroom, I'd say almost more than being a brewery at the time. Now, would you say that it's changed? Is it more of a brewery than a showroom? Is it still pretty
It's a beast. it's developed into a really successful, awesome local brewery. This is a showroom for the Marshall Group general contracting company. Still, the Marshall Group builds breweries in LA in the area. They built Tarantula Hill locally. They're building Malibu Brewing Company right now.
Oh, nice.
He's had a very good career in building gorgeous breweries and restaurants, and so still very active as a showroom for the Marshall Group. But I now have giant tanks in here that are always full and always turning over, so it's a good thing.
How does that work? Do you bring people in and this is our centrifuge, like this is how we use it? Like, do you show brewers your stuff, or? Yeah,
there have been some brewers that wanted to check out the equipment that we have before they purchase it. So Santa Monica Brew Works, in fact, came up and test drove, if you will, the centrifuge that we have here before they committed to buying one themselves, which is a great selling point. Like, if you're going to spend $100,000 on a car,
right,
you're going to want to test drive it first.
Yeah.
And so often in brewing, people don't have that opportunity. And so it's a lot of fun that's another way I get to collaborate all the time with other brewers that I otherwise might not ever talk to, just because of distance or whatever.
Yeah.
Is when they have a question about some of the equipment we have, they can come check it out. Same thing with our canning line. It's a counter pressure canning line from Colorado. So when we've had several people come check that out before they pull the trigger and spend a bunch of money on that.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I just the other day was helping someone with our RO unit, recommending an RO water filtration setup for a brewer. So it's a lot of fun to talk shop and nerd out on all the equipment.
Yeah. Probably weren't really able to see a whole bunch of brewers for the last 15-ish months or so.
True.
How did, other than the obvious, people have to do a lot more cleaning. They wore masks for a while. They might be doing that again. How has COVID changed the way you guys operate?
Cans.
Lots of cans.
Thank God we had the canning line in place pre-COVID. It was new, and it was about 30% of what we brewed we sold in cans, and that number has totally been flipped around. Now 70% of what we brew gets packaged into cans.
Wow.
Yeah.
Has that slowed down at all as things are starting to open up?
It's not. We haven't found that it's slowed down at all. What's actually happened is keg sales are going up right now, so we're just brewing more beer because can sales are still the same, which is awesome.
Right.
We're in all the local Total Wines, and Whole Foods is a great account of ours, and they're still just crushing it.
Yeah, I mean, you see Tyrannicide everywhere now, locally.
That was the goal.
Yeah,
that's my baby, and our flagship, the Tyrannicide, the 14 cannon gunship. Have to get that in there.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we just had Tyrannicide Day, I think, last week as we record this.
Yeah.
Tell people about Tyrannicide. It's a fun story.
Yeah, the Tyrannicide was a pirate ship that fought in the Revolutionary War, and Marshall's great uncle was the captain of that ship. And that's how we came up with the whole theme and the branding here. Was we just kept talking about, like, okay, we have like all this awesome equipment. We're going to do a showroom. Nic's going to make weird beer, but what are we going to call the thing? And we just kept coming back to, there's a pirate in the family. We have to go with that.
It's like free marketing right there.
We don't want to be cheesy Johnny Depp with it.
Yeah.
We're not chasing wenches around Disneyland or anything right now.
If you walk in the brewery, no one's going to ask you, what are you drinking?
No,
don't worry about that.
Yeah, that won't happen here.
And then back to the COVID situation. How did it change the way you marketed, the way you distribute? I mean, obviously distribution went to a lot more cans, a lot less people pouring kegs during COVID just because they couldn't be open. But how did it change like marketing and the way you guys did that sort of stuff?
That's a good question. Really had to focus a lot more on where our consumers lived. That's something that we hadn't really thought about because we had the luxury of we have a tasting room that's always full. And when we were forced to be closed, we learned, we were delivering beer to people's houses, which was fun. So I literally got to go see where all of my customers live. Yeah. Because I was in the van myself driving beer, going door to door. So I'm super appreciated that support we got from the local community. But yeah, that was a learning experience for sure. Understanding where all the liquid I brew goes. That's something that a lot of brewers maybe don't think about.
That's true. That is really cool.
Yeah. I have worked at bigger breweries before, and you have no idea like where that amount of liquid that you're producing is going to end up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and Marshall, being the construction guy that he is, you guys built a great outdoor space, nice little deck out there.
Yeah, and we get to keep that. So that's a silver
That was
lining.
going to be my question.
Yeah, silver lining of COVID is we now have a permanent patio.
That's awesome, because we love sitting out there. I mean, as long as it's not 110 degrees, it's great. You sit out there, it's nice out there.
It's something we always wanted, and pre-COVID, the property manager here in this industrial complex that we're in said, like, no, you can't take the parking spots kind of thing, and if you guys get a patio, then everyone's going to want a patio.
Except there's no other breweries over here. So.
There's no other retail businesses around.
Yeah.
But yeah, the silver lining of COVID is now we have a really nice patio, and we're hanging some TVs up this week for the Olympics out there.
Nice.
So there'll be TVs on the patio. Like you said, it's a nice wood deck with some good shade. And
yeah, we're usually here, obviously not last year, but we're usually here for the World Series. Whenever the Dodgers are playing, we'll stop by here and watch the games
be
here.
on the projector.
So hopefully they don't screw that. I know you have different feelings about the Dodgers being in the World Series, but hopefully they don't screw that up this year.
We don't have to talk politics right now.
Yeah. All right, so the beers we're having today definitely have like a fun story behind them, and then the next beer we have here is the K17, which I have been drinking a ton of for the last 6 months or so.
Awesome.
Tell us about the K17 and the story behind it and everything.
Yeah, so K17 is a Czech dark lager. We're focusing on lagers today, and what makes a Czech dark lager is the malt I used and the hops that are in it are Czech hops. So it looks like a stout. It's intimidating, right?
Yeah.
But it drinks like a Pilsner.
Right.
Yeah.
With a little bit of chocolatiness to it.
A little bit.
A little roastiness.
Yeah, a little roastiness. But yeah, it's not a heavy beer, even though it looks like a stout.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite styles. I mean, to get anywhere, when it's done right, it is so good. Yours is phenomenal. Enegren, speaking of Chris Enegren, theirs is great, Nighthawk, which has won a ton of awards. When done right, it's just so good. And I appreciate that yours is not like super smoky. That's what I find that I dislike about them so often is like you drink and it's a smoke bomb. And this is not at all that. There's a little chocolate, little roastiness, and just an overall great crushability.
Thanks. So the name is weird, K17. Mm-hmm. I said it's a Czech dark lager. So I studied abroad back in college many, many years ago. And I got to study abroad in
5
Prague.
years ago.
And living in Prague really is what got me into the whole beer thing. Mm-hmm. I was there studying music and lived above a microbrewery, and I was a home brewer at the time, and I was like, oh man, like this beer culture is really, really cool. And my apartment number in Prague was K17.
Oh, that's awesome.
So the apartment I lived in was K17, and so I knew like someday I'm going to do some weird kind of Czech beer, and I got to name it this. So
that's really cool. And that's back when it was still called microbreweries and not craft breweries.
Right.
Back in the good old days. So back to the whole collaboration situation. Any new projects, any future collabs on the calendar?
Yes,
that you're allowed to talk about?
I'm talking recipes right now with Santa Monica Brew Works, and so I think the plan will be to do one version of the recipe here and can it, and then I'll go down to Santa Monica and do a different version of the recipe, and they'll can it as well.
That's fun.
So that'll be kind of a dual can release, which is something we have not done before yet.
That's cool. Much better than the Zoom collaborations that were happening.
Yeah.
What's your favorite style to brew? Or do you have one?
That's a good question. Probably the Marzen.
Okay.
Like, as we were already talking about Marzen and drinking it, and it's a unique type of lager. And like I said, I am really fortunate that I get to brew it year round. I'm glad that it sells so well year round.
Yeah, we are too.
It's a really fun one to brew. And then aside from that, just a ridiculous IPA. Something that you can just watch money dump into the kettle when you're pouring hops in there.
One of those late 90s West Coast IPAs.
That's my
strip the enamel off
heritage.
Yeah.
Brewing down in San Diego area. Monster IPAs back in the day with the IBU wars and everything.
Right.
Yeah.
What's your most rewarding beer to make, or has been your most rewarding?
Our Pilsner, for sure.
Nice.
The Patient Pilsner is a Czech style Pilsner. We're noticing a theme. It's like, we get it. You studied abroad.
Yeah.
I'm like that.
Jamming it down our throats.
That one white girl that went to Barcelona for a month, right? But yeah, it's so rewarding to brew a clean Pilsner. It's the most difficult beer to make, which is why it's rewarding. Mm-hmm. There's so little to it that you can't hide any flaws in it. So anytime, anyone that's listening, anytime you go to a new brewery, if they have a Pilsner on tap, order that first. And that's a great way to gauge, what kind of brew you're getting into.
Yeah, I always start off my flights at new places with either a Pilsner or like a Helles, if they have a Helles.
Oh,
And
definitely a Helles.
there's no hiding anything behind those.
No.
As a IPA lover and maker, what hop are you currently crushing on?
Ooh, currently crushing. I have some Cryo Sabro that I'm really liking. And so we might have an IPA coming out in a little bit with that. And then we're also going to package in the next maybe 2 months. I have a new can coming out with a hop called Zamba.
Haven't had that one.
Yeah, I don't think many people have.
Is it like a New Zealand hop or something?
It's just a tropical blend. Yeah. So I'm excited to share Zamba with everybody.
Is it going to be an IPA?
IPA, it's going to be our one cannon rotating single hop series. Bright purple can for it. It's going to be cool.
Nice. So recently, taking a totally different turn, there's been a bill proposed federally that will legalize marijuana. Assuming the laws work out and things aren't so complicated as they are right now, would you make a beer with weed in it?
Man, if legally we could do that, I think that would be a great seller. We did a hemp IPA.
That's right.
A while ago. We actually have a good friend that works for a cannabis company called Bang.
Okay.
And they were like, hey, we have all these awesome terpenes. Do you want to play with them? And that was my first foray into the world of terpenes and professional cannabis. I don't know even how to describe it.
Yeah.
But that was kind of cool to, I had one of their scientists sending me all these samples of terpenes from different strains, and I was just doing like smell tests, and like I was treating it like a hop.
Sure.
Like,
I mean, they smell very similar.
Be the same family. So the one I picked, everyone got a kick out of. I guess it was from a strain called Super Jack. And everyone's like, whoa, Nic's going hard. It was...
Yeah, totally meant to do that.
Yeah, totally, yeah. But yeah, I think it's probably inevitable when, the ABC and the TTB are the governing bodies of beer.
Now it's super dicey. And it's like if you have one, you can't have... If you have cannabis, you can't have alcohol. If you have vice versa.
Right, yeah.
So I think when we talked the first time, this wasn't a thing yet. What are your thoughts on hard seltzers?
It was not a thing, and boy, do I miss that.
Bring us back to the good old days.
I don't know. Does that answer your question?
Sure. You gonna make any?
Never.
Okay. What about the ready-to-drink canned cocktails?
Those are super cool.
Okay.
I don't. This is many years down the road, but I am currently enrolled in school again, getting my master's degree in distilling.
Oh.
So
that's fun.
It's a 3-year program.
Okay.
So I want to definitely learn how to make spirits without killing people or going blind.
It's a good start.
Right. But I think I'm actively looking into expanding our current license to maybe someday let 14 Cannons distill.
That would be fun. I mean, not to plug too many other breweries while we're talking about 14, but Shelter up in Mammoth. I don't know if you've been there.
Yep.
We've been there. They've had them on the show. I mean, they're doing a fun little like beer on this side, spirits on this side. They're doing good stuff too. What's next for 14 Cannons? Maybe spirits.
Maybe spirits.
Yeah.
Just a larger distribution footprint. People are asking for the beer now, which is really cool. And we can only drive so far. And, traffic in LA is lovely.
Oh, yeah.
But so we are actively getting our beer a little farther than it's gone before. And talking about maybe going all the way up to Slow, maybe Central California. And want to service the greater LA area more. And so we are ramping up production to be able to do that, which is exciting. So our cans and kegs will be leaving Westlake Village.
How wide is the footprint right now?
Right now, we're really just Ventura County.
Okay.
So we have some great accounts up in Santa Barbara. We have some great accounts in Ojai, and that's really as far as we go.
Okay.
But, everywhere between. So Ventura, Oxnard, Camarillo, and we have a new sales rep who's working on the Valley.
Oh, good.
So we're going south a little bit and getting into LA. We just got into a great account down at USC.
Oh,
so that's pretty far down.
That's
for
pretty
us.
cool.
Yeah. And then the beer's doing great there. And so, yeah, we're working on getting the LA footprint a lot bigger.
Yeah, I'm sheltered, especially during COVID. I'm very sheltered to our area. So to me, 14 Cannons is everywhere. Right. Every store I walk in near my house has or bar or whatever has 14 Cannons.
Our goal the first 3 years was just own our local market.
Yeah.
And I think we've done a pretty decent job of doing that. We're self-distributed still. Mm-hmm. And so that's been a lot of work to, maintain everything. But it's also really nice that if an account runs out of beer on a Friday night, Jake, our sales rep, will literally, stop what he's doing and go deliver a keg. Yeah. Which you just don't get that level of service from most bigger breweries.
Well, I think a lot of breweries, their first goal in the first year or two is just to make money.
Yeah, survive.
Yeah.
And the tasting room really helps with that. All the margin is in-house. Mm-hmm. And so that's why it's so difficult to distribute beer, because it's a low margin game.
Yeah, you're just hoping to bring it back in.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to end it with this one. We did not do this on the first interview, and since we've adopted it for all interviews, I'd like to end it with, what's your favorite word or slang for being drunk?
I got to go with bombed.
Bombed, okay.
That's just it's always sunny. Let's get bombed.
I don't think we've heard that from a brewer. A lot of shittered. Shittered's a very popular one. Ham-skied a couple of times, but I don't think we've gotten bombed yet.
All right.
If you guys missed it at the beginning, 31125 via Cleanest, number 907 in Westlake Village. Look for the signs as you drive up the long driveways. It's a little confusing at times. 14cannons.com, at 14cannons on the gram. Stop by, say hi to Nick, give him a high five as he's dry hopping the shit out of something.
Hell yeah.
I think that's everything. Sir, thank you so much. Thanks for sharing the collab and everything else. And
cheers.
And cheers to you. This is always a pleasure stopping by.
Thanks for drinking some lagers with me.
Thanks for sharing some lagers. Thanks one last time to Nick. Always love when we get to hang out, share some beers, and get nerdy. It's also very nice to be back in person, hanging out with people and sharing those beers. Find 14 Cannons on the socials at 14 Cannons. Of course, 14cannons.com. You find us, craftbeerrepublic.com, and at Craft Beer Republic. Also, our number is 805-538-BEER. It's 2337. And if you'd like to send us an email, it's mail@craftbeerrepublic.com. I hope everyone is staying very well hydrated, doing some great beer research out there. And on that note, good night, everybody.